In this tutorial, I'll show you how to build a simple file or image upload feature using React, and then we'll use JavaScript to upload these files to Amazon S3. By the end of this video, you'll have a good understanding of how to upload files or images to S3 from your React applications, and you'll be able to implement this feature in your own projects. The first thing we'll do is to set up a basic React application that allows users to select files or images to upload. We'll use the Vite tool to set up our project. And in part 2, once we have our React app set up, we'll use the AWS SDK for JavaScript to upload files to our Amazon S3 bucket. I'll show you how to install the SDK and configure it with your AWS credentials. Then we'll write some JavaScript code that handles file uploads and sends these files to your S3 bucket. And then finally, we'll test our file upload feature to make sure everything is working correctly. I'll show you how to use the browser console to possibly debug any issues that may potentially arise during the upload process. We'll also talk about some common errors you might encounter when working with Amazon S3 and how to fix them. That's it. By the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of how to upload files or images to Amazon S3 using React and JavaScript, whether you're building a simple photo sharing application or a complex data storage solution. Being able to upload files to S3 is an essential skill for any developer. I hope you find this tutorial informative and helpful. Hello everybody, my name is Kutlo. Welcome to Coding 101, where we help you become a better developer one video at a time. If that seems like something that you're really interested in, be sure to subscribe to my channel and leave your comments in the comment section if you find this video insightful. Don't forget to like the video. Now I do want to say that this video assumes that you have basic understanding of cloud computing, especially when it comes to AWS. This video assumes that you have the potential, or you know how to create your own S3 bucket, and you know how to access what they call access keys. So if you're not familiar with these things, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section, and maybe in the next video I'll expand a little bit more on cloud computing or Amazon Web Services. But it's okay if you don't understand these, I will explain them as we go in this video. So let's get our video started. The first thing that we're going to do is of course create a simple React project using Vite. Now in your Vite project, just simply say, if you are not familiar with Vite, I'm going to leave a video in the cards so that you can learn more about Vite. So now you're just going to say Vite init, npm init Vite at latest, and then click OK, click enter. Enter your project name, upload S3. That's my project name. If it asks you to select the framework, select React, and we'll do JavaScript for now. Go inside of the file. Remember, it's AWS upload. Make sure you follow the React naming convention because I'm pretty pet peeve about this. And then you just say npm install like that. Now we don't want to go through this process because we've already gone through it in our already existing project. I've created previously we've created a project that was able to upload files to our Cloudinary account. Now many of you might be asking yourself, because in the previous video we showed you how to upload images or files using Cloudinary, and now we're using S3. What could be the reason why we're using S3 over Amazon? Now, as much as Cloudinary has its own benefits compared to S3, but in the case of S3, what I would say is that S3 is much more cost effective, especially when it comes to larger volume. S3 offers multiple storage classes with different pricing models that allow users to choose the best option that suits their specific need. And S3 is also good when it comes to scalability because it is highly scalable and can handle any amount of size, any amount of data regardless of size. S3 can be used to store and retrieve data from anywhere in the world. It offers built-in redundancy and failover capabilities to ensure high availability. And in terms of security, S3 is considered to be much more secure than its nearest competitor. So that is the reason why many people may choose to use S3 and not Cloudinary but each of them stand on their own, and each of them have their own benefits over the other ones. So you might have to look at them and see which one is a convenient option for you. Remember that Cloudinary has that free tier option that you can literally upload as many, but with a cap. Like you can upload many files or many images for free, while S3 charges you from the moment you upload your first file. But it's very cost effective, I must say. Now let's get into our video. Remember, we have to find a way in which we can upload files into our S3 bucket. Now after we've created our file using a Vite tool, what we've simply did is we've installed or configured Tailwind CSS. And using Tailwind CSS, we've managed to use Tailwind CSS to create a component over here. So this is the component that we have created with Tailwind CSS. Don't worry, I'm going to share this code with you. And if I don't share the code in the description box, please do remind me, because I tend to forget to upload the source code. But yes, so this is the code that we actually we used this code previously in order to upload files to Cloudinary. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building on top of that project. So you don't have to worry too much about the source code. If you don't find it here, you can find it in the video whereby I was teaching you how to upload files to Cloudinary. So we're going to use the same code in order to do that. So the difference in this case will be in terms of the backend. We're going to build a completely different backend. So in here, I was teaching you how to upload files to Cloudinary, but now we're going to upload files to Amazon S3. So this is whereby we're going to do the backend. So upload images s3.js. Why did I capitalize that JS? I need to make it. Alright, so before we do anything, we need to download the AWS Node.js package. So go ahead and say npm install AWS SDK like that. Now once we created this file, what we're going to do at the very top is, first of all, we need to import the package, as you can see over here, and then after that we need to configure that AWS package, and then after that we're going to create an instance of the S3 service, and we're going to give it parameters. And our parameters in this case, we're giving it the bucket name. So what we're assuming once again is that you have created this bucket on AWS S3, and it's very easy to do so. You simply just go to the AWS console, click on S3, and create the bucket. Now make sure that your bucket has the proper security controls inside of it so that it's not easily accessible from the outside. It's only accessible from your SDK. And make sure that you retrieve these access key IDs. Make sure you go to IAM inside of the AWS management console, and this is where you'll find your access key ID and your secret access key IDs. So these are the keys that are used to programmatically interact with your AWS services. Alright, so after you do this, now we're going to create our upload function. We just simply say s3.putObject. Now many people like to use upload, but I prefer putObject. Okay, like this. It has always worked for me. And then it's going to be exactly like this. Now this request, this is actually a request that we are requesting to put an object into our S3 bucket. Now we have something over here, and I don't want to make it params, I want to make it data. Now first of all, before we go anywhere, you need to recognize that this actually needs to be a function, because making it as a function is going to enable us to communicate with whatever request is being made to upload something from the React side. Remember, this is going to be an API. We're going to communicate the file information over to this S3 request over here. So we're going to make a function over here. Just make a modern arrow function, and we're just going to call it AWS upload, and it's going to receive some parameters. I'm going to give them the name params, and then I'm going to just take all of this and I'm going to put it inside of my function as such, and then I'm going to wrap everything inside of here in a promise, because it might take a while to execute. So I'm just going to say resolve reject like that. I'm going to wrap everything inside of a promise. I'm sure you could probably see that this is actually a promise on its own, like that. That's good. And then from the param, what I want from the user, what I want the user to give me actually, I want him to give me the file name, and I'm going to get this from the params that I just made as a parameter object. So I want the file name, and I want the actual file. Now the file is going to be transferred, or is going to be transferred as base 64. That's how I like to deal with things. Now because it's base 64, I'm going to have to use a buffer as such. And then after this, I'm going to maybe make a unique key ID so that this file becomes a little bit different from the other files. Because you can imagine we're giving it a file name so that as we upload it to the S3 bucket, the file is actually unique and we might know what type of file it is. So it's going to be a problem if we upload the same file twice. We need a unique ID that is going to allow us to actually identify that object much better. So I'm going to use actual time in order to identify that object properly. And then I'm going to create some information that is needed by the put request in order to process our upload. First of all, what we need is like a unique key. Like I said, I'm just gonna give it maybe the file name, I guess. I'm just gonna give it the file name, and then at the end I'm also gonna give it that time constant that we created. Remember, this is just an identifier so that the file is a little bit different from the others. Alright, I think that is okay. And then we create something called body, and then we pass the buff over here. Then we say content encoding. What type of content are we serving here? It's actually base 64. And then after that, we need to instruct our S3 to make this file public. So if you make it public, it's going to give us a unique URL that is going to allow us to actually access that information. So this data is going to be accompanied by this put object request that we're making. Alright, and then after that, what's going to happen is that if there's no error, we're absolutely okay. So this is when the error actually occurs, but if there's no error, then we're going to find a way to retrieve the URL. Remember, it's supposed to give us the URL, but quite actually, in fact, we don't actually need a URL because we don't need to return a URL because you can actually figure out what the URL can be based on the naming conventions of these URL. Remember that how Amazon or AWS makes all these URLs, it first begins with the bucket, and then it goes on to the availability zone, and it goes on to amazon.aws.com. I know that might be a little bit confusing, so let me just explain it a little bit. Now this is a sample AWS S3 object URL. So you use this address over here to access a public resource in Amazon S3. So this is how this URL is created, or it is generated, right? So this over here represents the name of the file. And this is standard for all AWS S3 files. And this is also standard. Sorry, let me just put this in here. This is standard for all AWS files, right? And then you have this thing over here. This is coding 101. This is the name of the bucket. Now, sometimes there is a possibility that AWS can put in front of these, AWS can also put the availability zone where that bucket is stored. But in cases like this, where it's much more universal, they don't actually put in that availability zone. So this is how it is structured. So knowing this, we already know how our URL is going to be structured. So we already have determined the URL that is going to be given to us from Amazon AWS. So we can already predict it. And so I like to predict it in my code. You can fetch it if you want to, but I think it is more knowledgeable to know how this URL is created in AWS. Now, because we know that our S3 bucket is actually known as Amazon, we've seen how our S3 bucket is going to look, we can actually predict how our URL is going to look. So we're going to use that information that I just described to you over here. So we're just going to say const URL is equals to, what is that? HTTPS / coding 101 .s3.amazon aws.com / we take this information over here, the key information. Alright, actually I think what I'm going to do regarding that, I'm going to switch those two because I want the file name to be at the end, not at the beginning. Right, so I'm just going to make this like this. So this is going to be like this. Make sure to put in those temporary literals, and then we're just gonna do this, copy this. Now we're gonna put it in here like that. That should work. And then we can console log. It can give us the data location, but I want the file URL. And this is going to give us URL. If you're going to take the Amazon AWS exam, this information right here can show up. If you want to be certified in AWS. Okay, so I think that's it for our backend. So what's left to do is actually fill up these keys over here. So I'm going to put them in an env file, and from that env file, I'm just going to pull out those access key IDs and access keys. Now remember that this is a promise, so we have to resolve and reject. So I'm just going to say URL. I should probably just do it like this. It's much cleaner. And then we can reject as well. And put this error inside of there. That's good. Now we're going to take this AWS upload, and then we're going to tie it up with a route. So over here we were using Cloudinary. We're going to squeeze ours over here. Again, I do have a tutorial that teaches you how to upload to Cloudinary, so if you're not familiar with that, check that out. So I'm just going to say upload AWS. This is my route that I'm using. This is the post route, remember? And so we're going to just put it over here. So we're just going to say, well, first we have to import that file. I'm just going to say const AWS upload. I'm going to require it at the very top. And this is going to be dot upload s3.js like this. Now we need to run our server. So we just use node on app.js and check maybe for errors. I hope there are none. Now once your server is running, and now we get to test the front end. Oh, we get to actually go to the front end. Make sure we connect it to our backend. There we go. So we're going to change these ones that you're seeing over here. And we're just going to say, what is our path? Let's go check out our path. There we go. It's called upload AWS. There you go. And then we go to over here and we insert our path AWS S. There you go. I'm realizing that we didn't complete actually our route. So we just say AWS upload, yes. And yeah, like this. Make sure we capture the body information. Images like that. And we say .then. I think it's pretty much the same as this one over here, so I'm just gonna copy that and put it over there. And that should be fine. Now, one thing to note is that the parameters of our post is very different from the parameters that we need. Remember that in our file, we require two parameters. We require the file name and the actual file itself. So maybe we can come over here and just put up a random file name, I guess. So this would be the file. Maybe the file name will be testing file, like that. Testing file, I don't know, .png or JPG, something like that. That should be okay. Now before we go on and test, make sure that your syntax is correct. In going through this, I realized I didn't capitalize my key, so that might be something that might be a problem for you. So you just want to make sure that everything is good with regard to that. Make sure that you feed your function the appropriate information. Make sure that your component sends a file and it sends a file name. So this is going to be testing file.jpg. Now you can extract this file name directly from your file instead of having to hard code it like the way that I did over here, but this is because it's just a testing file, so I want them to have like a specific name so that I can delete them later on. So, and then you want to make sure that the data that is being retrieved aligns with the data that you are giving back. So this is going to be, instead of response.data, it's going to be response.data.url, and this is going to allow us to be able to see that URL properly. Alright, so now we're going to formally test our uploading feature, and we're going to just come over here, click, and we can select this image that you see over here, and we will wait for it to load. Fingers crossed, and there you go. Image uploaded successfully. And this is our image right here, and if we are to click that, then you can see that it is allowing us to download this. And if we click over here, let's see if it is indeed the correct file that we had uploaded previously, and there you go. So there is the file that you uploaded to your S3 bucket. So that is how you do it. That's how you use JavaScript in order to upload files into your S3 bucket. So I think some of the errors that you might encounter is maybe if you don't configure your S3 bucket appropriately. Make sure you allow your AWS files to determine themselves so that they are able to select whether or not they want to be public or they don't want to be public. If you make your bucket to be private, then anything that you upload to that bucket is going to be private, and you're not going to be given a public URL that is accessible anywhere. So that is some of the errors that you might go through. Make sure that you are careful of the syntax errors in your code so that everything works out smoothly. But yeah, so this is exactly how to use JavaScript to upload files into your S3 bucket. This is the back-end aspect. You can see that it's very short and concise. This is the back-end aspect of our application, and this is the front-end aspect of our application. So I think that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learned something new. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, it wouldn't hurt to just click the like button and make sure that you have subscribed to my channel. If you find some parts of this tutorial very fuzzy and confusing, I appreciate all the comments that I can get, and I will respond to as many as I can so that I could help you with this very important feature of your applications. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.